Aloha, Be More Brew Crew. Welcome back to the bar. Tonight is a special night. I got with me Mr. Nick Rehak. He is a Heavy Seas beer guru. He is literally a Be More Brew Crew OG because when we were starting in the early phases of doing the Brew Crew, like we took his tour. That's when we met Nick. And that's when we were still doing like the beer reviews in the basement. And dude, like you were knocking out of the park on your tour. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your night tonight. I know it's been busy
Dude.
with the new one and your
It sure
life.
enough is. It absolutely is, yeah.
Yeah, congrats, man. Being a dad is
Thank you.
hard work, but you're rocking it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's those moments at 1:30 in the morning, she's screaming and crying, but I look at her and I'm just like, you were too cute. Like you were just, oh, you're so precious. It's funny because it's the best and the worst at the exact same time. Like I've never felt so that way about something before, and I'm like, no, that's it. Like it's for sure that.
100%, dude. It's like you wouldn't trade it for the world, even though you're exhausted, you're tired, your free time is shot. But
Yep,
yeah.
all gone. It is all gone.
Well, dude, I appreciate you sitting down with me because there's
Yeah,
some
man.
cool things I want to talk about that Heavy Seas has going on. One is this lost the only way I can put it is like this lost beer promo that they've been dropping for like the last couple of weeks. It's got everyone like, what do they have up their sleeve now? And I know you can't give away a whole lot, but I want to know, have you had it? Have you actually had it yourself?
Technically, yes.
Technically. Oh,
Technically, yes. That's a story for another time that I could probably tell off mic. But yes, I've had it.
all right. Well, are you drinking something right now?
I am drinking something right now, yes. I just posted about this in the Brew Crew group last week. I was out of town traveling for work, so I swung by Imprint and I picked up Locust of the Dead Earth, which is a double dry hop they did, and it's so good. If you find yourself in southeast-ish Pennsylvania and you're able to swing by Imprint, definitely pick one up because it is
I felt like a loser. I was
great.
like, where's that? Where's that at? I have to admit, like, have you ever been to South County? One of their locations, the one in York? Dude, I just hit that up on my way back from Hershey not too long ago, like a couple weeks ago, and that place was banging. I know I'm
Really?
gonna get crap for it, but I mean, it was like 50 minutes from my house, and they were doing it up right there, man. There's so
Nice.
many good beers around here.
Typically, when I go to Hershey, obviously you go to Trogs right there, but with the parking, sometimes I don't even want to do that. I just want to park in a handicap spot, throw on the hazards, run in, get my case of Nugget Nectar, come back out, go home. But if there's a cooler spot in York to swing by, I'll do that because we're riding 83 anyway. And 83, it's still local because it's BW or it's Baltimore Harrisburg. Like Baltimore's in the name of it, so it counts.
Dude, when I say it's off of 83, it's like 30 seconds off 83. That's how close it is.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's right by like Shrewsbury, York area.
Dude, I used to get
Great
off at the
spot.
Shrewsbury exit all the time. I used to go to college up in Williamsport, which is the home of New Trail. They're another great brewery up there.
Love
So
New Trail.
I know that area for sure. So I'll have to look for them next time I'm on my way up.
Dude, you're gonna get me in trouble talking about all this non-Maryland beer. Everyone's gonna give me crap now.
It's you know what's funny? Everybody loves home cooked meals, but every so often you just want to go out to dinner. You know what I mean? You want to go to an all-American steakhouse. You don't want to just go to the grocery store and then make something at home. It's the same as like, yeah, I like steak, but I'll crush some peanut butter and jelly like all day.
Darn right.
Like that's all it is. That's all it is.
So, okay, so you brought up Trogs, right? And Trogs is near and dear to my heart, just like Heavy Seas is, because both kind of played a role in my like craft beer upbringing, if you will, right? So I want to dive into like how you got into the whole craft beer scene and the local beer scene here in Maryland. Like what got you into it? I know it's kind of a family thing and you've got some connections to some other breweries as well. So
It is. It's a family affair, as Sly and the Family Stone would say. My brother was brewing for Heavy Seas for a while, and then he had an opportunity to go to Sapwood, and everybody was like, yeah, this works out great. So he's now brewing at Sapwood Cellars, and they have some wild stuff going on. And the nice thing is, like, they're two different breweries, truly, in that Heavy Seas is just crushing IPAs, and pretty much anything they put out is pretty great product. Sapwood, they're taking big swings on stuff. They're doing some they're truly a micro brewery, in that they're taking big swings on stuff, but they're getting recognized, untapped. If you look at their end of year stuff, Sapwood's always up there, and
they're killing it right now.
yeah, just doing some funky stuff. I don't know if it was released yet or they're getting ready to do it, but they did a collaboration with Fidens. Who down here is doing a collab with Fidens? Not a lot of people. We joked around. A buddy of mine works or is the manager of a clothing store in Philadelphia, and my brother is kicking around the idea of barrel aged jeans. In that you take, yeah, dude, you take like the big sapwood beer, like the one they're known for, put it in a barrel, and then throw some jeans in there and just see what happens. Like just goofy stuff, man. They're not going to do it, but still, just the idea and creativity. I went up there. They had a Pilsner that tasted like you were drinking a Coke. Mm-hmm. It had the syrup in there. It had the flavors in there. And I'm like, no one else is doing this kind of stuff. So it's just fun to like check out some of that stuff. And it's nice to be supportive of other breweries too. Like Heavy Seas, I talk about this on the tour. Heavy Seas has never been a brewery that like dogs on other breweries and says like, oh, those guys ain't doing it right. Those people aren't good. No, it's all fun. It's all collaboration. We're all doing different things. You know what I mean? You got RAR in Cambridge. They're knocking out those sours, which is crazy. You got Burley Oak down in, I think it was at Berlin somewhere down there. Like everybody's, see, there you go. Everybody's like doing something a little bit different. And I think that's wonderful. You know?
It is. And Sapwood does remind me a lot of Heavy Seas in the early on, you know, when it's turned over from Clipper City, because Heavy Seas was because they wanted to do like some really radical, experimental, heavier beers.
Exactly.
If my history serves me right, that's kind of like where Heavy Seas got its start.
Yep.
Because Hugh wanted to get more like, you know, deep dive into some crazy stuff.
Yeah, bolder flavor, higher alcohol content. When they started, they were doing a lot of session beers. You know what I mean? They were doing Saisons. They were doing that Belgian and older style beer. And they're like, you know what? Let's see what this IPA stuff is all about. And then here comes this 7.5 loose cannon, and it just takes off. And people are really, really enjoying it. That was technically my third legal beer that I've ever had was a loose cannon. So
now, sadly, yeah. I mean, I really can't remember my first legal beer. I'm sure it was something horrible.
My first legal...
I started off, you know, like any other teenage kid, like Coors Light, Miller's Light, Natty Boh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was me. And then I slowly graduated, you know, to the micro brews, the craft beer, and I'm like, oh man, this is some good stuff. And I remember one of my early beers that I really adopted was McHenry Lager. That's one that was just near and dear to my heart, man. And I swear, I pray one of these days y'all will be like, you know what, we're gonna run it back.
You never know, man. It's the 30th anniversary. They brought out some older beers already with small craft warning. Like anything is possible in the world, which I think is fantastic.
It is. It's really exciting because I'm seeing Heavy Seas tap takeovers everywhere. I know there's one coming up at Route 24 Ale House on the 1st. Yeah. I think there's about to be one at Max's, right? Or
I believe so. Yeah. At the time of this recording, I think it's about to happen.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So we're recording this on, what's tonight? Wednesday night. Tomorrow, what I understand is you're all going to be releasing some new information on the lost beers. I'm going to call them lost beers. That's the only thing I know is these ads are like, hey, are you lost? You know, like.
No, something is lost, and not for long, because as you're watching this, you could probably go to, the Heavy Seas page on Facebook, the Heavy Seas over on Twitter or X or whatever it's called, the Instagram account, like TikTok, all the social medias, we are out there. It's been so great to kind of push that envelope and kind of change up what we're doing. Right? Chelsea's come on board, and she's just knocking it out of the park. We're doing some great stuff. We're changing it up. We're bringing back old favorites. Right? We've got the Pirate that's been coming back in some of the design. Hopsy is coming out. Like, there's just a lot of really fun and cool stuff that we're mixing up and doing. So expect to see a lot more like coded messages and kind of hidden winks and nods and stuff that Heavy Seas is putting out. It's it's almost like a new era for Heavy Seas, which is really cool to think about.
It is, because as someone who does a lot of content creation, I can see how Heavy Seas has really upped their game over the last couple months on their social profiles with some of the videos and stuff that they're doing, because I'm like, man, there's a lot of production that's going into some of these, like even the shorts and the reels that you all are dropping. So I'm like, yeah, whoever's behind the scenes doing that stuff, they're doing a great job. And Heavy Seas has always done a great job of actually responding to people's posts and tagging people. And yeah, Heavy Seas has been awesome. And I want to say Heavy Seas was crucial to the way the Be More Brew Crew took off, because when we first kind of went online and Heavy Seas sort of caught wind of some of the reviews and things that we were doing, because we were big Heavy Seas fans and doing a lot of Heavy Seas beer reviews, Carolyn and everyone reached out. They were like, hey, we like what you're doing. Do you want to do an event here sometime? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome. And the social media part of it started responding to us. And I'm like, this is crazy. Heavy Seas Beer is responding to us on social media. This is insane.
Yeah, it's fun when I find like some memes and stuff, and I'll send it to Heavy Seas because I know like Caroline's monitoring the account or Chelsea is, and I'm just like, let me see what they say about it. Sometimes they get some giggles, and sometimes when they see me in person, they're like, "Hey, actually, this is kind of neat because," and then we talk out some ideas, and some of the ideas come to fruition, and other ones I just keep throwing it out there and hoping it sticks and comes back, but not always. I'm very much an ideas man, like very much an ideas man.
Yeah, dude, you and I are so alike. And unfortunately for me, some of my ideas are more grandiose than, I can't write that check and I can't cash it. So,
No, you
yeah.
got to aim for the moon if you want to get to the stars. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. So going back, so how did you get your start with Heavy Seas?
So it was the pandemic, and my brother's brewing there, and he says to me, "Hey, man, Heavy Seas wants to start doing tours again." I was like, all right, that sounds pretty cool. What do I got to do? He says, just go interview. Tell him. I'm like, all right. So he set up an interview for me. I work about 5 minutes away from Heavy Seas. So I'm at work. I change into some really nice clothes, button-up shirt, khaki pants, shoes, the whole nine. I got a folder with my resume in it. Like literally, zero beer experience on this resume, but it's a resume nonetheless. And I go in and I'm sitting down with Chris, who was the previous taproom manager before Aaron took over. And we talked for like 20 minutes, talked nothing about beer. All we talked about was like the comedy scene and open mics and mics that he had done in Annapolis, mics that I had done in Baltimore, people that we knew. And finally he was like, you know what? I think this is a great fit. You're on. And I'm like, cool. What do I start? What do we do? Hands me a script. He says, learn this. We'll do a dry run sometime in July. We do that run. And then August, it was 2021. Right, because 1, 2, and then 3 last year. Yeah, so 2021, the first Saturday in August was the first tour that I ever done. It was 22 people, and it was funny because I did the tours that day. That's back when we were doing them at 1, 3:30, and then 5. 3 a day on Saturdays. I did those tours, and then the next 2 Saturdays, I couldn't do tours because I was following Dead & Company around. No. So I was in like Philly and Hershey and Virginia doing all that stuff. But then I came back, and I loved it. I just kept doing it, and it has evolved and changed over the years. Every time I go in, I'm figuring out, all right, what do we have going on in the fermenters? Hey, is there anything special coming down the pipe? I go over and look where the beer labels are. The most recent tour we did, I actually had to turn boxes around so people could not take pictures of what's dropping either today, if you're watching this, and then obviously on Friday the 25th. They weren't allowed to know what's coming. Now, we had the packaging for it out and about on display. You can't hide cans, So when I saw that, you've been on the tour, I talk about how, take whatever pictures you want. I blab a lot, blah, blah, blah. Here's some secrets and stuff. But this was one of those things where Caroline was like, hey, no. And I'm like, I told him, I'm like, look, guys, you can take pictures of everything you want. But do me a favor. Don't take pictures of this right here. And they were like, what is it? So there's a group of, I think about 16 people that know what's coming on Friday the 25th. They already know what's happening.
Do Mike and Kat know? Or are they on
they
that
were
tour?
They were not on the tour. They were on the previous month's tour before all of that stuff came in. Had they known, though, I'm sure they would have been like in the group like, oh, we know what's happening and this and that. So they know what's happening and what's coming tomorrow, but they've been really, really cool. I don't think anybody's been posting anything about it. So it's exciting to see how this is going to play out and how Heavy Seas approaches social interactions and just teasing stuff instead of just like, here's a Facebook post, this is coming. No, there's like this interaction. There's like stuff happening. And it's just really exciting. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, it is extremely exciting. I don't even have the inside scoop, and a lot of times Carolyn gives me the inside scoop on what's coming out. So I am like in the dark. So, man, I just got to wait. I'm going to try to make it out there Friday for the drop, and yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited.
I'm going to be there as soon as they open to pick up what's coming out so I can take it home.
You've already had it.
Well, officially pick it up and take it home because I'm excited.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to ask Caroline, be like, hey, can I get a little inside scoop if I stop by right before opening? Yeah, maybe she'll be nice.
You never know. She answers when I text her. So, I mean, it takes a little bit, sure, because she's, super busy and she's got, her life and things going on. But,
well, good. It's
she
not
answers.
Just me. That's great.
No, it's I feel like She's obviously not going to respond immediately because she's got stuff going on, but she gets back to me before the day's over.
Now, before you started at Heavy Seas, were you brewing? Were you brewing with your brother?
Nope, never brewed once. Now, he was going to college in western North Carolina, about an hour west of Asheville. I mean, damn near Tennessee. He's out there as just a side. He wanted a hobby while he was in college, and he starts brewing with this German guy. His name is Dieter. I swear to God, I don't know if he still has a spot over there or not, but he's brewing with him, and the guy's like, look, I can't pay you, but I can give you supplies to brew your own beer. And so my brother was doing that. He turned his college dorm bathroom into a brewery, and he would just have buckets laying around. And I'm like, what? Because I would visit him every so often. I'm like, what do you got going on there? He's like, oh, this is this kind of beer, this is that kind of beer. He would brew beer and then put it in different soda bottles that still had some of the residue in there to kind of capture different flavor profiles. He used a lot of Diet Dr. Pepper, the cherry vanilla bottles, in order to get
bottle conditioning.
Completely different, but he's getting that cherry and vanilla flavor from the residue in the bottle. He doesn't have to go out and get the real thing. He could test these ideas. And the coolest thing was, when you see family doing something, even if they're not doing great, you kind of cheer them on a little bit. Hey, that was really good, even though if it wasn't. In my mother's life, I've never had to lie to my brother and tell him that something was good. It's always been good what he put out. So he hooked up with a couple breweries in North Carolina. He did some in Alabama and then came back home. But when I visited him one time, I went to the brewery he was at, and I'm just like, I'll help out today. What do you want me to do? So mainly I was running hoses and filtration stuff. But as far as brewing, nope, not once. I think it'd be fun, but it's like if he knew how to play the guitar. I don't want to learn how to play the guitar. Let me play bass so we can both do something together. Let me play drums. We can do something together. So my brother, my cousin, and I, we keep talking about how when we're roughly 43, 44, we'll have our midlife crisis, quit our jobs, take out massive loans, and start our own brewery.
There you go.
So who knows, 10 years from now, maybe you'll see some, Rehack beer out there. I don't know.
That would be cool. I mean, me, someone who's dabbled in, we've done like the One Be More Brew Crew beer. We've got some other ones in the works right now. And
nice.
Everyone always asks me, like, do you want to open up your own brewery or, start your own, beer production facility? And I'm like, no, not in today's market. I sure as heck don't. Like, you're crazy. I feel so bad because 2025 is going to be a hard year for a lot of breweries with, all the tariffs and everything going on, and then just the price of everything. And so I want to ask you this, right? As someone who is in the tap house quite often with your tours and everything, and you see who's taking the tours, where do you think that the future of craft beer is going? Because I see a trend where it seems to be pivoting towards non-alcoholic options, towards healthier options, towards these CBD options. Where do you see it going?
It's going more towards non-alcoholic, but it's going to shift to CBD really quick. A lot of people don't realize this. InBev, Anheuser, Core Miller, they're not just buying out other micro and craft breweries. They're buying vineyards. They're buying dispensaries. They're buying companies that produce this stuff. Because when it shifts and people start looking more into wine again, or they start looking more, because a lot of states, Maryland included, legalize, right? A lot of people are going to start looking into that. Sapwood has put out a couple beers that feature terpenes in it, right? And terpenes is just one of the byproducts of, marijuana and everything, or cannabinoids, if you will. But all it really does is just add flavor, right? You're not getting the THC or the CBD. You're not getting the high portion of it. You're just getting the flavor and the essence of it. So when you have a very citrusy, hazy kind of beer, you can introduce terpenes into that and increase that flavor and make it that much stronger. Now, when you crack open that beer, it's going to smell like weed. I cracked open one of his beers he gave me, immediately smelled like a joint, and I got confused because I'm looking around, I'm like, did someone just light up in my house? Like, where's this coming from? Poured it into a glass, and then the smell dissipated, but that flavor was just so good. And it's not a gimmick, it's not a novelty, like it's a genuine ingredient that I think you're going to see a lot of people start embracing. I think you're going to see the likes of these smaller micro guys trying it out first. And then when some of the bigger players see it, they'll go, okay, the market wants this. Let's start to invest in these ideas and let's see what flavor profiles work and which ones don't. Because that's the key of it, especially in this economy. People want to try new things, but how much can you push and try? How much can you spend and invest and try to recoup that money, or at least break even, make a little bit of profit? Because if you start losing money on each one, I mean, it doesn't matter how fun and fantastical it is. If you're not profitable, at the end of the day, it's a business. You got to make money in order to keep doing what you do. So I see now non-alcoholic beers becoming more of a thing, but not as big as seltzers are. Seltzers, out of nowhere, I feel like they're everywhere right now. We're going to see non-alcoholics hit a bit of a plateau, but we're just going to keep seeing more and more of the CBD type just concoctions because it's the next frontier. It's becoming legalized in more and more states. More and more people have access to this stuff, and it's also becoming less taboo. Right? Before, people would talk about, like, they'd be like, hey, man, I got a joint, like, in kind of whispering. But now it's a little more like, hey, man, I got a J if you want to go whatever. And it's not even, like, joints and nugs and things like that. There's creams, there's edible, like, lines of it. So there's ways to introduce that product without it being taboo, without it being so, like, just, off-putting. Like, there's going to be fun ways to do it.
I just think, a lot of the breweries around here are going to have to adopt and pivot their strategies to remain profitable and stay in business. Because I know 2024 was the first year there was more breweries that closed than opened, and I hope 2025 doesn't repeat that trend. But I think we're going in that direction again.
Fortunately,
yeah. So I do think like every brewery is going to need to have like you said, like some sort of a seltzer or some sort of a non-alcoholic offering to appeal to those more family friendly kind of, folks and younger generations. And, it is what it is.
Yeah, like Heavy Seas, because they have the Dominion contract, right? There's a root beer. There's a ginger beer that's coming. I don't know if it's on the shelves or not yet, but the ginger beer's out there too. And don't be surprised if you see more of that type of stuff coming down the pipe. As far as like soda type stuff that craft brewers are getting into, because that's just a really easy pivot. Not as many ingredients, and you can kind of bust out, become like a Jones Soda. Jones Soda was huge a couple years ago because all their wacky flavors and stuff. You can do the same thing, right? But instead of a beer base with malt, you just do a soda base, or essentially a seltzer base, right? But I also foresee a lot of breweries coming together and partnering, right? Key Brewing. I loved Key Brewing. I'm born and raised in Baltimore, but I spent most, if not all of my life in Sparrows Point, except for a couple years in New Orleans, in Sparrows Point, and it was right around the corner from Key Brewing. I'm like, this is
so awesome.
great.
I love Mike.
Great dude. I love Dundalk Calling. If I need something a little bit lighter, I love Speed Wobbles.
Wobbles all day.
It's so great, right? So crushable. I'm a deadhead, so obviously when they do Long Strange Trip, I'm knocking that hazy back with no problems. But when they moved in, I forgot who they moved in with. It wasn't, not Checker Spot, Monument. When them and Monument got together, I'm like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. They're still doing different things, but now there's a shared space. There's a bigger shared collaborative space, and I think something great's going to come from that. I wouldn't be surprised if more breweries start doing that and becoming kind of a collective, and then it turns into a farmer's market, essentially. You know what I mean? Farmer Dale's got his tomatoes. Jerry over there's got his corn, but they're both farmers.
Well, and then you also just had Peabody and the Meadery, or Charm City Meadworks, coming together, just like you said. The Meadworks went into to Peabody, if you recall. So they're one. So like you said, that is getting to be a trend. I just wonder, I'm interested to see the future of that, because what if one brewery is outpacing the other? Like, what about future growth kind of thing? So I have some questions about where that's going, but for the time being, I can see that's a way for them to sustain, and keep moving forward.
I think from a business standpoint, you just absorb the one that isn't producing as much. You know what I mean? You take their mainstays, and just for hypotheticals, let's throw this out there. Let's say Key Brewing surpasses Monument, right? Key Brewing's doing well, so they buy out Monument, and now they're one. They're just Key Brewing, but they might have the Monument series.
That's true, yeah.
And that's the big mainstays. But that also allows the Monument guys to, like, let's try some experimental stuff and see what works, and then introduce that under the Key Brewing line. That's what's going to happen. But as a hypothetical, like, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like Guilford, they just bought out Flying Fish not too long ago. But they're keeping the Flying Fish logo and everything, and still putting it out under Flying Fish. But it's owned by Guilford and the guys at Guilford. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's always the contract brewing side of things where you could go to a bigger place like a Heavy Seas and say, hey, you guys got the means. You've got 29 fermenters out there. You've got 2 big kettles. Throw some of our beer in there, too. Because Heavy Seas have the capability to run 24/7. They've done it before. They've got overnight guys on occasion. So it's not that they can't do it. And who doesn't love working and getting paid a little bit more, maybe a little bit of overtime? Especially in, today where eggs are, how much are eggs now? Who knows, right? What are they going to be tomorrow? I don't know. But having that little bit of extra pocket money goes a long way.
So one little peek behind the curtain for your tours, if I'm promoting your tours, I remember one of the eye-opening things when I went on the tour was you kind of get to see, to a certain extent, who is contract brewing with Heavy Seas. And I remember the one tour I went on, I was shocked. I was like, whoa, I had no clue that they were contract brewing with Heavy Seas. I don't want to give that away. I'll let someone else go on the tour and experience that because I don't even know if technically they are, so I don't want to say it. But I remember being shell shocked when I was like, huh. I had no clue that they were contract brewing with Heavy Seas.
Yeah, when I go in for a tour, I try to get in a couple minutes early, and I'll walk tour route that I walk every time. I take a look and see, where the hoses laid out near the fermenters. How far back are we allowed to go this time around? What do we have going on in the hop cooler? Is there a space for everybody? Are we just taking peeks? But I look right at the shelf where the labels are because there is stuff coming up. We've got the designs are ready to go, and then it becomes a question of like, hey, what can I say and what can't I say? And I've always kind of pushed boundaries and limits a little bit to a playful extent, never maliciously. But sometimes I have to go to Caroline and I'm like, look, this is out and about. Do you want me to turn it away so people can't say it? Do you want me to ignore it so people don't say anything about it? Let me know. And sometimes she's like, no, go for it. And other times, very similar to what's coming on Friday, it's like, not this time.
Sure. Yep. Completely understandable. And I will tell everyone out there who's watching. So 2 of my favorite tours in the area that you're going to get is going to be one, Heavy Seas, which is probably one of the most wonderful values you will ever get in a tour. And then Trogs up in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Those are 2 of the most incredible tours you could take around, the Baltimore, Maryland, Pennsylvania area. Definitely
Wholeheartedly
take the Heavy
agree.
Seas tour.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, no problem. And you're a big part of that. Well, how's it feel? Because Hugh used to do a lot of the tours himself. So what's it like to step into those shoes and you're taking over tours for Heavy Seas?
It's a little intimidating at times because I open the tour, we kind of get together with the group, and it's funny because, and I'm just more and more into the process of what goes on in my mind. When I'm introducing a group and we have a circle there, hi, my name is Nick, welcome to Heavy Seas Beer, here are the rules. Has anybody ever done a brewery tour before? I'm looking around to see who's raising hands. I'm seeing already who's engaged, who's not engaged, because that's going to tell me how far do I go as far as the information. Do we have some real beer nerds here that are going to want to know certain things? We got some hop heads in the group? Or do we have people that just, hey, I like this, and I'm here with my husband who likes this, or hey, my wife is a fan of the Tropicana, but I drink Coors, so just give me, the blonde or something like that, right? When I'm figuring out who's done tours, every so often, if not every tour, every other tour, someone always goes, yeah, I did this years ago when Hugh gave the tour. So there's a part of me that's like, well, I'm not matching that theatricality. So I have to tell myself, I can do and say some things, but I'm not going to hit that extent of it, which is I'm not going to recite the pledge, right? That's a very much him thing. I would never want to take that over. No, not at all. But it's always fun to hear what they've said, and then afterward coming through and hey, the tour was great. So knowing that I'm still putting a decent enough tour out there to where people enjoy it, people want to tell people about it, come back and do it again, because I've had some people come back, they're like, yeah, I saw you do it 2 years ago, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I don't remember you, man. It must be all these beers I've been drinking, you know what I'm saying?
I've done your tour 3 times, and I will say I've done tons of, tours around the country, and I will say, you are very entertaining because you're very knowledgeable, you know your stuff, and that comes across, but you're also entertaining and you're funny, and so you get that good mix of humor and knowledge that comes across, and it's a fantastic tour. You get your hands on some hops, and you get to go into the cooler, and you get to go up to the bird's nest, and that's a really cool view up there for those who haven't experienced it. So, yeah, tell us a little bit, what do you get for the tour these days? Because I know it's changed, because I've been on it a few times back in the day, and then it went to the more premium experience for a while, and now I think it's back to sort of the original where you guys were at before, around 2023.
Yeah, it's a similar iteration. So it's flat $15. You're going on there for the tour. You're getting the tour, which could be 30 minutes, could be 45 minutes, could be an hour. It really all depends on the group. Sometimes I get a group, no one's asking any questions. And I'm like, okay, this is just what it is. And then I have other groups, like the most recent one, I got somebody asking me a question every step of the way. I love that. There is so much information I have in my hands that I don't give out, because people just, A, aren't asking, or B, I can't really shoehorn that kind of thing in there without it seeming clunky and throwing off the vibe of things, right? So you get a elongated tour experience, and there's sometimes where I go places and I'll take people to portions of the brewery that maybe I'm not supposed to, but if the group is small enough and it's intimate, I can, and I feel okay doing that. I'm not going to say where in case Caroline's watching this, but I'll personalize it in ways that make it different each time, because someone might say, oh, hey, I saw this part. Oh, I didn't get to see that. Like, how come is this? Oh, well, the group was small enough. Like, I guess you got to go back for another one, kind of thing. But at the end, everybody gets a glass. You're getting tasting tickets, and the bartenders, Aaron, tapper manager, obviously, Krista, Steve, Carrie, who recently came on, Benji, who recently came on, just a bunch of great people behind the bar. They always notice the post-tour cask bump, because I'm always talking about whatever's on cask. Like, you got to try this out, you got to try that out, and that's always like the first thing. They know when a tour is done because people start asking for the cask.
I love the cask offerings. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so fun because it changes up and people do all different kinds of things. But 15, it's the tour. We do it one Saturday a month, the second Saturday of the month, 2 o'clock every time. Now, it says 2 o'clock. I'm typically starting around 2:05, just because, I'm a loose goose, if you will. But it's always, I never want to toot my own horn, because I don't want to build an ego. I like staying humble, and I always want to learn. I always want to try to become better each tour. But we get a lot of positive feedback on the tour, and it feels good to know that I can provide a consistent experience that wants to bring people back, not necessarily for the tour. If they want to come back and take the tour again, great, that's awesome. But if they keep coming back to Heavy Seas to drink the beer and enjoy, and because they know how it's made, right? And they can see the final ingredient and drink it and enjoy it and think about everything that went into making that beer, that's just fantastic to me. Like, yeah, I think that's great. That's the win.
Any lover of Maryland beer should come out and take the tour, quite honestly. I mean, because Heavy Seas, obviously, like, you're the OG, you're the biggest, and wherever you go around Maryland, you feel like there's always going to be a loose cannon. That's usually always going to be one of the craft offerings. Even at any bar that doesn't really have a great craft selection, you're usually always going to find the loose cannon. So if you want to take that tour and find out where that loose cannon is made, like, you need to head over to Heavy Seas and take the tour.
Yeah, I agree with you, 100%. 100%. It keeps me employed, and it's funny. Actually, I finally admitted to Caroline, because I hadn't told anybody this the longest time. I get paid, right, to do these tours, but I told her, I'm like, look, you could have just given me free beer and merch, and I'd still do this tour. I'm like, you don't even have to pay me, and she was like, well, hang on, don't say that too much, and I'm like, okay, I won't.
Yeah, because you're just during that tour, man. You're just chilling. You got a beer. You're having a good time, and I'm jealous because of all the knowledge you have of Heavy Seas, getting to work with the Sisson family, getting to work under Hugh, who's obviously like the GOAT here in Maryland, in terms of the craft brewing scene. He was the one that, really got the brew pubs, legalized and went through that whole, the whole mess with the legalization of the brew pubs. And, without him, I mean, who knows where we'd be at right now. So
no, we might not be as far along as we are had he not done it in the early 90s with, like, Delegate George Della Jr., and there were others on there as well. But to just have that forethought and just be like, yeah, let's do it. But, of course, it was one of those things, it passed on the first try. Everybody wanted it to happen. Somebody just had to say, hey, can we do this? And you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. Pass it through, and then off you go. And then the cool thing about Hugh doing the tour is he created it. He's the guy. He's the one showing you and telling you all of these things because he lived it. Now, me, obviously, I'm not a brewer, but my brother is, and if I don't know a question, I can call him up. Hey, man, question about this. And having that knowledge and knowing that I have that, like, literal hands-on resource is fantastic, and it gives me the confidence to know, like, I know what I'm talking about. Sometimes in the tour, I'll give that perception of, like, oh, I don't really know. Not dumb, per se, but definitely a little, like, what's going on with him? But I know what I'm talking about, so there's absolutely a confidence there that I'm not just going to lie to somebody. not BSing them or saying something they want to hear or something that makes the tour more exciting. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, here's how it is, here's what it is, but I'm just kind of painting it in a very whimsical way.
You and I are a lot alike because I am not a brewer. I have dipped my toes in there and I enjoy brewing with others. I enjoy doing recipes. Like we have some brewers in the group and we've done the Be More Brew Crew beers and I have very much been involved with the brews and the brew days and the different concoctions that we come up with. So I'm knowledgeable enough to a certain extent, but then I've definitely had people that are trying to, say like, "Oh, you're trying to be some sort of expert." Like, "No, dude, I'm just a guy that likes beer. I
Yeah.
love beer. I want to learn as much as I can about beer, and I want to get other people excited about beer. That's who I am." And I
Yeah.
think you're a lot the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no different than a sports team. If you like the Ravens, if you like the Orioles, you're not just going to go to the game. You're going to learn about the players. You're going to learn about the coaches. You're going to figure out where the players went to. If a player went to Georgia or Alabama or LSU, I know I'm sticking to the SEC there, or if they went to Oregon, right, in the Pac-10 or whatever West Coast they do, you're going to learn, like, okay, why did they pick that player from Georgia? Oh, well, Georgia runs a similar defense scheme, or they do this or that, or a previous defensive coordinator now works there. You start to learn the intricacies of it, and it just becomes this black hole of knowledge that's never ending, but you do nothing but gain, right? No different in beer. You go to different places, you learn what people are doing, and then you just start talking to people. Whenever I'm at a place, when I was at Imprint, for example, I met unintentionally, the head bartender, and her and I were just talking. We were just kind of shooting it and figuring out, like, what are you guys doing different from us? She's like, oh, we've got these great collabs coming up. So then you just start to learn this stuff. Perfect story. I went up to Williamsport with some old college buddies of mine, and we went to New Trail because I'd never been there before. Sitting at New Trail, I've got my Heavy Seas flannel on because it was like 2 degrees that day, right?
Did you get a broken heels?
I got the double. I'm a double broken heels kind of boy. Had the flannel on because it's bitter cold, right? Take my jacket off, and I see that they're installing a brand new kettle. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm watching them do it, and this guy comes up, and he says, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good, man. What size kettle you got going on? And we start talking about that, and I said, he sees the Heavy Seas, right? And he's like, oh, Heavy Seas, I love that beer. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I work down there. I do tours and stuff. He says, oh, he proceeds to take me through the entire facility. Everything. Then into their storage facility. I'm passionate about stuff, dude. But some people don't want to just present it because it might just be, like, overindulgent. Like, who has a sealed cassette tape of the soundtrack to Muppet Treasure Island? Nobody has that, right? It's so hyper-specific. Nobody has
awesome.
that.
I love you.
But the passion and love is there. Like, you've got Sam Adams behind you. You've got Guinness behind you. You've got Edgar Allan Poe from the artwork that you guys did with your collab, over at Red Brick Station. You've got Oriole stuff back there. We're all passionate about stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes
you've been down here, so I got some Star Wars stuff down here.
That's true. You sure do. You sure do.
We got that passion going on, man. I love my Star Wars. And if you turn the camera on, I've got some Heavy Seas merch behind there. You know what's sad though? My daughter just broke my Heavy Seas glass. She just broke my pint glass, dude. I was heartbroken. So now, yeah, I'll have to come out and get another one, maybe on Friday.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
I know time is of the essence for you and your new family. Congratulations on that and everything going on at Heavy Seas, man. So your next tour is going to be what? The second week in May.
Yeah, the second Saturday, Mother's Day weekend, actually. So the Saturday before, which is the 10th of May, we're going to be doing a tour. Next day is Mother's Day, the 11th. So bring your wives, bring your mothers, bring somebody out there that you love.
That's the big craft beer festival.
On the 10th, yeah, I know. It's a heartbreaker because I saw the tickets coming out. I'm like, I can't wait. I saw the date, and I'm like, I can wait.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer.
Doing 2:00, that's right in the heart of the day.
Yeah, I even thought, I'm like, maybe it goes into the night. I'm like, no, it doesn't, Nick. Don't fool yourself.
Come on, man. You need to get Carol to be like, hey, we're going to do an evening tour that night. Carol, we need to do an evening tour. We're going to do 7:00. Might be a little tipsy.
Do a candlelit tour. We just got to be very careful.
Yeah. Well, oh man, I can't drop because I know I'm working with BAM on the craft beer festival, so I know a little something that's happening. I don't know. Are you in on it? Because I know Heavy Seas
Not
is.
anything going on with the festival. I'm not in on that. Some of the stuff that goes on outside, like some of the outside events, they might say something to me like, "Hey, would you be available if so and so can't make it to like hang out and pour beers or do a little bit extra something?" I'm like, "Yeah, just let me know." Just like sometimes you can catch me behind the bar over at Heavy Seas, right? Because I pop in every so often. But a lot of the events outside, I've gone to liquor stores and we've done like in-person tastings and talked about stuff like that. But no, outside of that, you've got some insider information on me.
Yeah, stay on after we end the recording. Just stay online for a second.
Okay, absolutely, I will.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thank you for joining us here
Absolutely.
tonight. I appreciate your time, and yeah, everyone head out and see Nick at one of the tours over at Heavy Seas, and for sure, you're probably going to be watching this Thursday. You know, for this Friday, you know, make sure you hit up Heavy Seas. They're going to open up at 3 o'clock. I think 3 to 8 is going to be the big drop. You know, the big event for the two beers that they're going to be releasing. And, you know, Chris knows his thing over there. He's one of the greatest brewers here in Maryland. And yeah, be there on Friday and find out what's going on because what is lost will be found.
Yep.
And
It
it'll be
certainly will.
highlighted on May the 10th.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I will not be there. I will be at the Craft Beer Festival. So, all right. Well, Nick, thank you so much, dude.
Thank you,
it easy,
man.
my
Thank you for having me so much. You too, dude.
All right. See you, brother.